The amazing creature known as the teenager. Neither child nor adult. Too cool for bedtime, but not quite ready for taxes and dental insurance. Today, on Knowing is Winning, let's take a stroll through time and culture to unravel how this peculiar life form came to be, how society shaped it, and how teenagers today are redefining the very idea of adolescence with an Instagram in one hand and a climate petition in the other. Believe it or not, the term teenager didn't just pop out of a high school locker room one day, clutching a Walkman and rolling its eyes. It tiptoed into American lexicon back in 1913, wearing its Sunday best as teenager in a newspaper article about practical young workers at Sunday school. Before that, we had teener, which sounds more like a mascot for a breakfast cereal than the demographic. It wasn't until the 1940s that teenager took its permanent seat at the societal table. And shortly thereafter, marketers rolled out the red carpet. Why? Because these kids had something adults wanted: disposable income and opinions, preferably rebellious ones. At the turn of 20th century, being 13 meant one of the two things. Either you were scrubbing laundry by candlelight or operating dangerous machinery with zero supervision. There was no you're finding yourself sweetie moments. You worked, you contributed, and if you didn't, you would better start. But the roaring 1920s and the educational reforms that followed gave rise to something new: the American high school. A miracle of lockers and algebra where 13 to 18-year-olds could gather without being told to churn butter or operate a loom. Suddenly, there was space, both literal and cultural, for adolescents to be, well, adolescents. Then came World War II, which threw everything up in the air, including societal expectations. The New York Times, always one to announce social revolutions with editorial flair, published the Teenage Bill of Rights in 1945. It suggested, among other things, that teenagers should be allowed to mess up, have fun, and maybe even choose what cereal to eat. And boy, did they take that permission and run. With cars at their disposal and enough spending money to buy gas and milkshakes, they filled drive-ins, rocked to Elvis, and posed existential questions like, should we wear leather or denim today? The next few decades turned teenagers into cultural icons. In the 1960s, they rebelled in miniskirts. In the 80s, they hoarded boomboxes and loitered at malls like suburban philosophers. And now, fast forward to the 2000s, and now they had iPods, side bangs, and a vague disdain for mainstream everything. But beneath this constantly shifting aesthetic lay something deeper: adolescence as both a biological phase and a social playground, stretching well beyond those numeric years of 13 to 19. Neuroscientists today will tell you that the teenage brain doesn't finish its cognitive journey until the early 20s. So it's not just attitude, it's biology, psychology, and a dash of social chaos all rolled into one. Teenagers aren't just being difficult for fun, though it may seem that way. Their brains are undergoing a massive renovation. The prefrontal cortex, which governs decision-making and impulse control, is still under construction. Meanwhile, the limbic system, which handles emotions and rewards, is firing on all cylinders. This imbalance means teens feel emotions intensely but lack the brakes to slow down impulsive reactions. Add to that a deep psychological need to define their identity, and then teens, of course, start questioning authority, values, and rules. Not necessarily to defy them, but to figure out who they are apart from their parents. As a matter of fact, Puberty unleashes a flood of hormones that transform both body and mind. Testosterone surges in boys, increasing aggression, competitiveness, and risk-taking. Estrogen and progesterone rise in girls, affecting mood, emotional sensitivity, and even sleep patterns. Cortisol, the stress hormone, spikes more easily, making teens more reactive to pressure. These hormones also influence neurotransmitters like serotonin or dopamine, which regulate mood and reward-seeking behavior. This hormonal cocktail doesn't just cause mood swings. It rewires how teens process emotions, often making them hypersensitive, impulsive, and prone to rebellion. The good news? This storm doesn't last forever. By the early to mid-20s, the prefrontal cortex catches up, improving impulse control and emotional regulation. Hormone level stabilize, and the brain finishes pruning unused neural connections, streamlining thought processes. Teens gradually develop self-awareness, better coping strategies, and a more balanced emotional landscape. Paradoxically, a lot of us remember that period of hormonal imbalance as the most important and the best part of our lives, when every day was the most important day of our lives, where drama and ups and downs ruled, and when we tried adult life for the first time without much care or consequences. While you can't fast forward biology, you can help teens navigate it. Encourage open communication and validate their feelings. Talk to them. Listen to them, no matter how silly or preposterous they are. Promote healthy habits like sleep, exercise, and balanced nutrition to support hormonal regulation. Teach meditation and mindfulness and emotional regulation techniques to help them manage mood swings. Most importantly, stay calm and consistent. Your stability helps anchor their chaos. So yes, rebellion is real, but it's also a rite of passage. A messy, hormonal brain rewiring, identity forging chapter that with time and support leads to something pretty remarkable, which is adulthood and responsibility. Yet, being a teenager doesn't happen everywhere, or rather, there is no room for it. Not every place on earth subscribes to the concept of teenagers. In many low-income or agrarian communities, the transition from childhood to adulthood doesn't stop for a selfie. There's no leisurely prom or late-night gaming. Economic necessity means kids jump straight into adult roles, milking goats or running family businesses before they have had a chance to decide whether pineapple belongs on pizza. In these cultures, the teenage experience as understood by Western marketers simply doesn't exist. There is work, responsibility, and maybe, just maybe, an occasional stolen moment of play. And speaking of responsibility, today's teens are carrying the weight of the world in their thrift store tote bag. They're activists, mental health advocates, coders, and YouTube philosophers. They're organizing climate marches between math homework and emotionally complex text threads. The internet has extended adolescence, creating digital neighborhoods where 16-year-olds can bond over cat memes, learn advanced coding, and launch businesses while still being baffled by how taxes work. Digital adolescence allows them to form peer cultures online, but it also slows their leap into full-grown adult independence. And when you throw student debt and the gig economy into the mix, it's no wonder some young adults are still living at home well into their 20s. Not because they're lazy, but because the economic game has completely changed. Recent studies even suggest adolescence is stretching longer not just socially but biologically. Psychologist Lane Arnett Jensen notes that the globalizing world is making the teenage phase both longer and more culturally layered. Today's teens are exposed to ideas and movements across borders, making them not just participants in culture, but creators. Meanwhile, researchers in developmental neuroscience keep uncovering more about the teenage brain. like how it is uniquely wired for exploration, risk-taking, and identity formation. This isn't just chaotic energy, it's evolutionary genius. Teens are designed to push boundaries, seek novelty, and question authority. Yes, even when that authority is your suggestion to do the dishes before the dinner. But if you really want to understand teens, don't just look at what they buy or how they dress. Listen to what they say, how they protest, how they rebel, and how they remix culture in dizzyingly creative ways. They are shaping entire ecosystems online, turning Instagram into both a comedy club and a sociopolitical megaphone. They're also redefining mental health by demanding resources, removing stigma, and creating virtual communities around healing and support. In conclusion, the teenager isn't just a phase. It's a constantly evolving reflection of society, economics, biology, and pop culture. From the factory floor of 1900 to the virtual forums of 2025, teens have morphed from invisible laborers to cultural architects. And whether they're dancing on your screen, organizing climate strikes, or refusing to talk to you until after 3 p.m., they're not just growing up, they're reshaping what growing up even means. So the next time you see a teen rolling their eyes, take it as a revolutionary gesture. They've earned it, and now you know it, because knowing is winning. Thank you very much for watching.